Psychology is still a fairly new field of study. Compared to other areas like math or philosophy, which have been around for thousands of years, psychology was founded in 1879, not even 150 years ago, by Wilhelm Wundt. Because it's so fresh, we see new advances happening all the time, which is usually a good thing, but occasionally these findings turn out to be straight up wrong and even dangerous, most of which start and end on TikTok without too much harm being done, but occasionally there's a craze that becomes so popular so fast that before experts have time to evaluate if it even works, thousands are already participating in it, resulting in more bad than good, and in some cases even death. So today we're going to be looking at 3 psychological trends that turned out to be straight up wrong and even damaging, starting light and progressing towards one of the most barbaric medical procedures in history. By the way, my name is Lucky. Yes, I'm talking with a wooden spoon, and if you like psych videos, make sure to stick around and subscribe because there's going to be more to come. Starting off with toxic positivity. And I know what you might be thinking, toxic positivity sounds redundant because what could be bad about positivity? Well, actually quite a bit, but before we get into it, I think it's important to talk about where it originated. This trend began all the way back in the 1950s when psychologists like Abraham Maslow realized how much suffering is caused by pessimistic outlooks and negative thought patterns. Because of this, they started to place a greater emphasis on human happiness and well-being. And over time, those ideas were simplified into the belief that all negative emotions should be avoided. And at that time, it was not common knowledge that this self-help paradigm could be a net negative, and the belief that you should only be happy was about to ramp up even more with the social media boom right around the corner. We all know social media is only used to show the highlights. Everyone wants to show how perfect and happy their life is, but never showing any real emotion other than that. And if you think it's bad now, it was only worse in the earliest stages. Eventually, this competition of trying to out-happy everybody else subconsciously made the masses adopt the ideology that you should always be happy. And if you felt a shred of any other emotion, you should be ashamed. I believe this is directly shown with the mass production of Live, Laugh, Love signage through 2008 to 2012. No, I'm not saying that your mom having this in her living room is dangerous, but the energy behind it really is. Positivity by itself is not a negative, but the pursuit of only feeling positive emotions and avoiding anything unpleasant is very damaging. Negative emotions are actually very beneficial. For example, stress gives you the extra motivation that you need to pursue and achieve goals. Shame and guilt is needed to make and keep you a good person, and insecurities can push you to improve yourself. And when you lack negative emotion, it shows. Because while you can avoid these emotions for the time being, you can't make them disappear. And the suppressed emotions will manifest in other forms, including heightened anxiety, depression, and emotional volatility, physical symptoms like chronic muscle tension, headaches, digestive issues, and elevated blood pressure, misplacing cooped up emotions as anger on other people, and potentially damaging coping mechanisms like drug or alcohol use. This is all because your body is actually designed to let your emotions come and go as they want, allowing your nervous system to do its job and release stress rather than allowing it to build up. While this trend may have had some good come out of it, the next one has caused people to literally self-medicate. And the final trend won a Nobel Prize before ruining tens if not hundreds of thousands of lives. Online diagnosis. And no, I'm not talking about working with professionals online. I'm talking about those multiple choice quizzes that make you watch an ad before seeing your results. When doing research for this video, I found out that this market is way bigger than I thought, generating about $1.2 billion a year. And the quizzes are taken by roughly 250 to 300 million people annually. I understand that it seems like these quizzes are done purely for fun or out of curiosity, but that's simply not the truth for everybody. A poll by EdWeek Research Center found that in the US, 55% of students use the internet to self-diagnose. And if it isn't already obvious, self-diagnosing rarely goes well. The majority of people who self-diagnose turn to other non-professionals for insight in places like TikTok or Reddit, and even worse in modern times, rely on AI for answers. I think it goes without saying, but these unregulated conversations are just a breeding ground for misinformation that can easily turn harmful. On top of this misinformation, it's very common for those who self-diagnose to also self-medicate. From a study of 160 students, about 57% of them said that they plan on or might self-medicate in the future. And as you know, self-medication can lead to a numerous amount of problems, including dosing with the wrong amount, unhealthy coping mechanisms, and even potentially getting laced. But at the end of the day, you could say that this is self-inflicted and it's not actually the study of psychology's fault, unlike the next psychological misstep that was more often than not forced upon the patient. This is hands down the most unsettling and darkest chapter in the history of psychology. Originally founded by Antonio Igues Moniz, a Portuguese neurologist in 1935, sorry if I'm butchering his name, he developed the procedure to treat people who displayed symptoms which in modern science are parallel to that of BPD and schizophrenia, BPD being borderline personality disorder. The procedure involved drilling holes in the skull and severing pathways that connected the prefrontal cortex to the rest of the brain. Moniz received a Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine in 1949 for his work. Again, I'm I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. The reason they believe this was an effective procedure is because your prefrontal cortex is responsible for higher level thinking, like planning, impulse control, emotional regulation, and focusing attention. Doctors believe that it worked because the patients would stop displaying the same symptoms that brought them in. The problem was that they also lost most of what made them who they are. And because of the loss of control due to the damaged prefrontal cortex, patients who survived the operation often experience epilepsy, dementia, incontinence, and permanent blunting of personality. The procedure, by the way, according to Science Direct, had a mortality rate of 6 to 27%. This procedure became worldwide and gradually modified by other doctors, most notably in 1946 by Dr. Freeman. No, it's not Morgan Freeman. He developed and began heavily promoting the transorbital or ice pick lobotomy. Of course, this craze was short-lived once everybody started realizing the severe and life-threatening side effects, as well as the creation of the less invasive psychiatric medication. But even though it was cut short, the popularity resulted in about 50,000 lobotomies performed in the US alone, ruining countless lives in the process. The biggest takeaway from all of this is psychology is constantly evolving, and that's a good thing, but it also means that we shouldn't take every new trend as scientific fact just because it's popular. It's very important to question new or bold claims, look for evidence, and don't be afraid to wait till the experts catch up. If you're still here, you made it through my first ever YouTube video, so thank you. I would greatly appreciate if you even considered liking or subscribing, because any button that you press is going to help me and this channel grow immensely. You're doing amazing. Have a good day.